The BMW i8 is, according to Munich, the sports car of the future. It's a hybrid petrol-electric 2+2 capable of 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds and is limited to 155 miles per hour. It's made from carbon fibre and aluminium and it sips fuel like a nun sips vodka. It makes a Porsche 991 look about as modern as a flint axe. The tech behind the i8 is plain fascinating. It's a clean sheet reappraisal of how to make something low, fast and efficient. The passenger safety cell is a single carbon structure and it sits on an aluminium backbone chassis. Out back is a tiny 1.5 litre 3-cylinder motor from the Mini, but turbocharged to insanity to give 231 horsepower and 236 foot-pounds of torque. Coupled to it is a small generator motor for starting and ancillaries, which can also boost torque in sport mode. Up front there's a larger electric motor giving 131 horsepower and 184 pounds-foot. All in, that's 362 horsepower and a lot of torque. The i8 weighs 1,485 kilograms and on the EU combined cycle can return, wait for it, 135 miles per gallon, emitting just 49 grams per kilometre. The bodywork is as impressive as the gizzards, all scoops and crazy shapes determined by the wind tunnel for a CD of just 0.26. Don't take my word for it though, but I think it looks absolutely stunning. The cabin is conventional BMW meets Buck Rogers with two massive screens and all manner of fancy readouts. The rear seat's a weenie and the boot is even smaller. As standard, the car comes with tiny 195 front tyres and 215 rear sections. The test car has the optional 215 fronts and 245 rears. So the i8 is fantastically clever, but is it any good to drive?
So we've seen how all the technology works, but now we have to see how it behaves in practice, because the thing I find with these ultra complicated hybrid vehicles is that you could tell me that there are 4 squirrels and 8 pots of yogurt by the front axle and a large buffalo at the back, but the proof's in the way it drives, and increasingly the proof's in how the clever engineers have calibrated all of this to work together so that it feels like a normal organic motor vehicle. The i8 is quite surprising. I haven't driven anything quite like it on the public highway. First impressions, okay, we're on some open canyon roads now. I thought we'd do it this way around. We could have started cruising around in town, but really we want to put it in sport mode and see what a 360 horsepower genuine electric hybrid is like to drive. The answer is surprisingly fast. We were doing all the chasing with the WRX a minute ago, and out of the slower turns, the i8 leaves it for dead because it has torque fill like all of these hybrids. So I pull out of a turn now, in 3rd gear, put my foot down, I get that instant surge of torque. Gearbox is really nice and fast. It can be a bit lumpy on auto downshift sometimes, but it does match revs when you pull a paddle yourself manually like that. You heard the blip, off we go. The noise, well, the little 3-cylinder 1.5 litre inline 3, it makes a kind of parpy half a 911 noise, which is quite pleasant, but there's lots of augmentation going on in here. So we've got fakery coming out of speakers. I'm on the record as saying I can live with that and I don't mind it too much, but some people will find it a bit offensive. I quite like the noise. One thing I find strange about the i8 is that I try to sort of categorise cars by their sound signature. I get in them, and if it sounds a bit BMW M-like, inline 6, and raspy, that's a BMW M car. If it sounds a bit 911-like, it's a bit like a 911. Well, you get into the i8, and it sounds like a bit of a 911. The noise is behind you, and it's discernibly sort of 3-cylinder, 6-cylinder-ish. It feels and sounds like a 911. What's the handling like? This is quite interesting, this bit. In the sport mode, the 215 section front tyre is definitely the thing that gives up first. And it's quite a cautious chassis. It doesn't want you pulling massive great slides. Obviously, I've tried on your behalf, and it really doesn't want to do it on the road. You could, but you'd have to be a complete hooligan to make it happen. The steering is very light, very accurate car to place, but there's not much connection. But then we're getting used to that, aren't we? You learn a rhythm with this car, and you tend to find that you want to be 1 gear up than you thought you should be because of the massive torque boost of the electric motor. And you create a rhythm with the car. You don't want to unsettle it too much. Does it feel 1,485 kilograms? No, it doesn't until you really start to throw it around and the mass builds up. But the centre of gravity is so low, there's an agility to the car that you really appreciate. a couple of times I found myself wanting to just hoof the car, brutally use the throttle to alter the attitude of it through the corner, and I couldn't. I didn't get any response from either the electric motor or the internal combustion engine. That was quite interesting for me because the other 3 vehicles I've driven that I suppose have a similar hybrid capability, the 918, the P1 and the LaFerrari, admittedly expensive company, I know, they have that response. In the P1 you can sort of trim the throttle 3 or 4 times each corner. In this, I don't feel I can. I feel that the electric motor is less responsive than perhaps I'd been given to expect. But let's put all of this in context. This is a really exciting car to drive. The question I have to ask myself is, would someone who has been driving, for the sake of argument, a Porsche 911 for the last 5 years and has had a 997 and now a 991, would they still find this an appealing car to drive? I think they would. The balance here for me is that as an out-and-out sports car, it is missing something. It just doesn't feel that organic. It lacks a little bit of connection, and at times when you push it quite hard, even on the road, it doesn't respond quite the way a normal sports car would, but it's so close. The flip side is it brings new elements. That amazing torque-filled sensation as it fires out of corners. Just the sense of being something so special, the fabulous cabin, the way it looks from the outside, the way people respond to the car. It's a bit of a folk hero. People love it. But I've done some canyon driving now, as they say over here. I've enjoyed the twisty bits, learnt a lot about how the car performs. There's no circuit activity on this early drive. We'll do that at some point, but really this isn't a track car. I think we need to now go and use it as you really would use it. And in California, that surely means going a bit slower, maybe driving in an electric mode, and going to buy an in and out burger. I'll spare you the pain of watching me eat a double animal style, I think it was, wasn't it? I think it was double animal style. What a burger. Anyhow, a great opportunity now to drive the car back in electric mode and try and understand what it's like when it's silent. I think part of the thrill of the i8 is the silence. The fact that it looks so futuristic. That's the fan coming on, really helpfully, as I say, silence. And we can just, look at that, just edge backwards now. And then we'll roll out of here quietly. Now, in much the same way, I'm a great believer in the joys of my little 2CV. I think this is another great motoring experience, something to be exploited and enjoyed. I can enjoy this the way I can enjoy drifting a P1. I know I crap on about that, but it's all about variety. This is something lovely. And when you're in town, the silence and the serenity help. They do also bring in some odd other issues that you hadn't thought about. For example, when you don't have a noisy, clanky combustion engine going away the whole time, you do hear other noises. So everything has to be really well tied together. In the i8, even these early cars, no squeaks and rattles, there really aren't. In fact, it's so quiet inside that when the camera equipment's bolted in, all you can hear is the camera squeaking. In all electric mode, we have about 37 kilometers of range, which is pretty good. I'm now in the sort of hybrid comfort mode, so it means that when I ask for a bit more of the car, the generator will come on and charge the battery. And if I ask for a bit more and more of the car, then it will cut in and actually give me more performance. Now, earlier, I found that I got a bit confused, or maybe I confused the vehicle itself, in that I asked a bit more of the car, and when the combustion engine cut in, it accelerated me faster than I thought it would. I then had to stop immediately, and when I took my foot off the throttle to hit the brake, it felt like the engine had kept going, a bit like an old school turbocharger as it sort of spooled up and carried on boosting when you didn't want it to. I suppose that's all down to the calibration. I have to say the dashboard ahead of me looks great, but I don't find it the clearest to see. Otherwise, in here, I mean, it's like you're being dropped into the year 2035. It's just spot on, just like the exterior. We were all discussing over our delicious double animal style. We were just discussing, when was the last time that you saw a concept car that was as unaltered and messed around with as this was from the 2009 concept. I mean, it really does look like it's just driven straight off a motor show stand. I love that. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But for cruising around town, for having two personalities, for having the kind of bolt it in e-drive mode, go to the shops around town, guilt-free, emissions-free, well, as much as you can when you're generating electricity, and then out of town, dusting a WRX between second gear hairpins. Yeah, this is a mighty, mighty achievement, this car. And I'm enjoying its silence right now. How can you not enjoy this?